Chapter 1. The World of Billionaire Alexander Hayes. Under the flickering lights of New York City at night, the skyscrapers stretched upward like symbols of power and success. Standing atop the highest floor of a gleaming glass building was Alexander Hayes, a renowned self-made billionaire. Looking down at the stream of vehicles below, appearing like tiny ants, his cold blue eyes reflected the city lights, yet there was no trace of emotion in them. At 38, Alexander Hayes had achieved everything others could only dream of. From nothing, he built a real estate empire worth billions of dollars. Financial news outlets often praised him as a visionary, unafraid of risks, and always ready to make bold decisions to achieve his goals. However, beneath the surface of his success was a lonely man. Alexander had long chosen to live a life of isolation. No friends, no family, and no one who truly understood him. His time was measured by meetings, contracts, and numbers. Joy, if it ever came, appeared only when he closed a big deal or saw his net worth increase by a few $1,000,000. To Alexander, emotions were a luxury, and love was a frivolity he never believed in. His life had been shaped by a tragedy from his childhood. His only sibling, Emily, had passed away from a terminal illness when they were both very young. That loss left a void in Alexander's heart that could never be filled. Instead of confronting his grief, he buried himself in work, building an invisible wall that separated him from the world. Over the years, that wall only grew thicker. Tonight was no different. After an hours-long, tense meeting with investors, Alexander was behind the wheel of his luxurious car, speeding through the dense rain. He did not rely on a personal driver because he preferred the solitude of driving himself. Raindrops pounded against the windshield as if trying to erase everything in view, but Alexander's mind remained focused solely on numbers and plans for his next big project. Suddenly, through the dim glow of his headlights, he saw a small figure collapsed on the sidewalk. At first, Alexander thought it was just another drunk or a homeless person, an all too common sight in the city. Yet something about the scene made it impossible for him to ignore. The car gradually slowed down, and for the first time, Alexander chose to go against his usual indifference. He decided to stop. That night, Alexander Hayes, a cold and solitary billionaire, not only saved a life, but also began a journey to rediscover his own. Welcome to Soul Stories. Today we bring you a heartwarming tale. Let us know which city you're tuning in from around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to catch more meaningful stories. Chapter 2. The Rescue. Alexander Hayes was not the type to stop in the midst of life's bustling chaos, nor was he someone easily moved by tales of misfortune. He was the embodiment of cold logic, always prioritizing goals and results above all else. But tonight, under the relentless downpour, fate pulled him out of his usual routine of solitude and unyielding rationality. Alexander's luxurious car glided through the empty streets. The heavy rain blurred the glow of streetlights on the windshield, creating streaks of hazy light. He had just left a tense meeting with investors, his mind still immersed in numbers and plans. But as his eyes scanned the roadside, a small, motionless figure came into view. He slammed the brakes. The tires screeched against the wet pavement. In the glow of his headlights lay a woman curled up on the sidewalk, her rain-soaked hair plastered to her face. Her thin clothing was no match for the cold that seeped through every drop of rain. Alexander frowned slightly. This city was full of such scenes: homeless people, drunks, and individuals cast aside by society. He reminded himself that this was not his concern. Alexander was used to ignoring anything outside his sphere of interest. Yet this time, he couldn't press the gas pedal and drive away. A strange, inexplicable feeling, like a deep whisper in his soul, compelled him to act. Alexander stepped out of the car, holding a large umbrella over his head. The icy rain lashed at his face, but he didn't care. Bending down near the woman, he gently shook her shoulder. "Miss, can you hear me?" There was no response. Her breathing was faint, her pale face devoid of life. Her hands were clenched tightly, as if desperately holding on to a sliver of warmth. A sudden image flashed in Alexander's mind: his sister Emily, frail and helpless in her final days. A wave of sorrow surged within him, a feeling he had tried to bury for many years. Alexander took a deep breath, making a quick decision. He bent down and carefully lifted the woman into his arms. Her body was light, frail, as though she had endured far too much hardship. He quickly wrapped his coat around her to shield her from the biting cold. Instead of calling an ambulance as he usually would, Alexander carried the woman back to his car and gently placed her in the back seat. Every action he took felt natural, without hesitation, as if caring for someone was something he had always done, a stark contrast to his true nature. The car sped through the rain, heading toward Alexander's mansion. Throughout the journey, he frequently glanced at the woman through the rearview mirror, his eyes fixed on her fragile form. Her vulnerability stirred an unfamiliar worry within him. "You'll be fine," he murmured, unsure if the words were meant to reassure her or himself. When they reached the mansion, Alexander quickly instructed his staff to prepare a warm room. But instead of stepping aside, he personally carried the woman upstairs and laid her on a large bed, wrapping her frail body in thick blankets. He checked her breathing repeatedly, each passing minute feeling like an eternity. Alexander immediately called his private doctor. "Get here immediately. I have an emergency," he said, his voice usually commanding, now tinged with urgency and concern. When the doctor arrived, Alexander stood silently by the bed, watching every step of the examination. The doctor measured her temperature, checked her pulse, and administered IV fluids. After a while, he turned to Alexander. "She's severely hypothermic and exhausted. She must have endured this condition for several days. You did the right thing bringing her here. Let her rest, and we'll monitor her closely." After the doctor left, Alexander remained by the bedside, staring at the woman's pale yet strikingly delicate face. An indescribable feeling washed over him. For the first time in years, Alexander felt warmth in his heart, not from wealth or success, but from knowing he had saved a life. That night, as he sat quietly by her bedside, Alexander had no idea that this decision would change the course of his life. The woman he had saved was not just someone in need. She was the light that would guide him back to the emotions he had long forgotten. Chapter 3. The Mysterious Woman. As the morning light slowly broke through the heavy curtains of the cozy bedroom in the mansion, the woman Alexander had rescued from the fateful storm began to stir. Everything around her felt unfamiliar. The large bed covered with velvet blankets, the soft glow of a bedside lamp, and the quiet stillness of the room that exuded an unexpected sense of peace. She opened her eyes gradually, wincing as her body still felt weak. Within moments, she noticed a tall man standing by the window, his back turned to her. It was Alexander, who had stayed up all night, waiting for her to wake. He turned around and his usually cold eyes now showed a quiet concern. "You're awake. How are you feeling?" he asked, his deep voice uncharacteristically warm. The woman looked around, her large dark eyes filled with caution. It was clear she was not used to being cared for so attentively. After a brief hesitation, she softly replied, Where am I?" Alexander stepped closer, pulling up a chair beside the bed. He responded briefly but with unmistakable care. "You collapsed on the street last night. I brought you here." The woman sat up slowly, struggling slightly, and after a few moments of silence introduced herself. "I'm Evelyn Grace. Thank you for helping me." Her voice was gentle but carried a raspy edge, as though she hadn't spoken much in a long time. When Alexander tried to learn more about her circumstances, Evelyn simply shook her head, her gaze dropping. "I don't want to burden you any further. I'll leave as soon as I can." Alexander frowned. He wasn't used to such curt and evasive responses. Evelyn carried an air of mystery he couldn't quite decipher. She appeared both fragile and resilient, like someone who had endured much but still clung to a sliver of pride. "I don't need to know what happened," Alexander replied firmly, "but it's clear you need more time to rest." Evelyn looked as if she wanted to protest, but when she met his resolute gaze, she relented with a small nod. In her current state, she knew she couldn't leave just yet. Through brief conversations, Alexander gradually pieced together fragments of Evelyn's story. She had once been a promising young artist, but her life had taken a dark turn. She lost her entire family in a devastating car accident, leaving her with no one to rely on. Forced to fend for herself in a harsh city, she had battled life's injustices, only to end up in abject poverty. Evelyn didn't go into detail, but Alexander could sense the pain behind her words. Her tired eyes still held a glimmer of pride, as if she was trying to conceal her wounds from the world. "I used to think I could overcome everything," Evelyn said softly, "but sometimes life doesn't leave you much of a choice." Alexander remained silent. He wasn't the type to offer comfort, but he listened intently, something he rarely did with anyone. Alexander couldn't understand his own feelings. Why did he care about this stranger? For years, he had maintained his distance from people, refusing to let anyone into his cold, isolated world. But with Evelyn, something felt different. The image of Evelyn curled up in the rain last night replayed in his mind repeatedly. She reminded him of Emily, his sister, small, fragile, and ultimately taken away by the cruelty of life. Perhaps this was his chance to atone for what he had lost. Or maybe for the first time, he simply wanted to do something unselfish, something unrelated to wealth or personal gain. Alexander found himself caught in a whirlwind of emotions he couldn't control. Evelyn was like a puzzle, and though he didn't want to admit it, he wanted to understand her more. Evelyn remained guarded, but deep down, she couldn't help but feel touched by Alexander's kindness. He wasn't someone easy to approach, yet his patience and quiet concern made her feel safe, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. Both carried their own burdens, and slowly, they began to connect through small, unspoken moments. Alexander didn't realize it, but by helping Evelyn, he was gradually rediscovering the depths of his own humanity, parts of himself he had buried long ago. For Evelyn, this wasn't just a rescue from a cold, stormy night. It was a glimmer of hope she had never dared believe she could find. Chapter 4. Connection and Secrets Revealed. The living room of Alexander's mansion, with its warm fireplace and soft lighting, created a serene atmosphere where Evelyn, for the first time in years, felt sheltered after a long period of uncertainty. Under Alexander's genuine care, she gradually let her guard down and allowed herself to share more about her life. Sitting on the plush armchair, Evelyn gently swirled the tea in her cup, her eyes cast downward as if trying to hide the emotions welling up inside. After a moment of silence, she softly said, "I used to think I could control my life, but everything just slipped through my fingers, little by little." Alexander remained silent, listening attentively without interrupting. His patience made Evelyn feel more at ease to continue. "My family was once very happy. My parents always supported me in pursuing art. But then a car accident took them and my younger brother away. I was the only one who survived." Her voice broke, and her eyes grew red as she recounted the painful memory. Evelyn explained that after the accident, she not only lost her family but also faced mounting debts. She had to sell her home and dive into a life of hard work, taking on any job to survive. "I tried to start painting again, hoping art could be my way to overcome everything. And I thought I had found my escape when a big art company approached me and offered me an exclusive contract." Evelyn sighed, a faint, bitter smile crossing her lips. "But they didn't keep their promises. They controlled everything I did, forcing me to paint what they wanted. When I resisted, they canceled the contract and tarnished my reputation. Within months, my career was ruined. I didn't just lose my job, I lost my faith in myself." She explained how she became unemployed, using up her savings just to get by. But eventually the money ran out, and she had no choice but to live on the streets. "There were days I thought I wouldn't make it," Evelyn said, her voice trembling. "But I kept going, not because I had hope, but because I had no other choice." Alexander looked at her, feeling a surge of emotion he couldn't name. She wasn't just a strong woman. She was someone who had endured profound injustice. After a while, Alexander spoke, his voice low but full of emotion. "You remind me of my sister." Evelyn looked up, surprised. It was the first time Alexander had willingly shared something about himself. He continued, his gaze distant as if he were looking into a painful memory. "Emily, my sister, was the most important person in my life. She was 6 years younger than me, but always strong and optimistic, even after learning she had a terminal illness." Alexander recounted the days his family fought against Emily's illness. He had done everything he could to save her, from seeking out the best doctors to paying for the most expensive treatments. But nothing worked. She passed away when she was just 16, Alexander said, his voice breaking. Before she left, she told me not to lose faith in life. But after she was gone, I didn't feel anything anymore. I threw myself into work, not to succeed, but to forget the pain. Evelyn listened quietly. She saw in Alexander not just a wealthy, powerful man, but someone carrying deep sorrow. She was the only one who believed I could do anything, Alexander said, his eyes meeting Evelyn's. And I let her down. Alexander's story deeply moved Evelyn. She felt the weight of his words and, for the first time, saw a common thread between them. Both were struggling to survive the unfillable void left by loss. I think life takes away the people we care about the most, just to see if we can stand back up, Evelyn said softly. Alexander nodded, his expression softening. Maybe you're right, but I've spent too long running away instead of standing up. From that moment, their conversations grew deeper. Evelyn began to feel safe sharing more about her dreams, the paintings she once created, and the things she had lost. For Alexander, it was the first time in years that he opened up to someone else. They found comfort in each other. Evelyn felt the sincerity in how Alexander listened, while Alexander, through Evelyn's stories, rediscovered parts of his humanity he thought he had buried long ago. One night, as they sat by the fireplace, Evelyn sighed. I used to think no one really cared about me, but you've made me think differently. Alexander gave a rare, warm smile and replied, and you've shown me that sometimes caring for someone else isn't a weakness. It's a way to find ourselves again. In that moment, they both realized they were no longer two strangers brought together by a rainy night. They were two souls who had found each other, helping to heal the deep wounds within. Chapter 5. A Shocking Revelation. The next morning, Alexander sat in his office, sunlight streaming through the pristine glass windows, but his mind was far from at ease. The night before, Evelyn's story lingered in his thoughts. She had once been a painter, an artist with big dreams, but now lived homeless on the streets. The misfortunes she shared seemed only to scratch the surface of a much deeper story. Unable to ignore the strange feeling gnawing at him, Alexander decided to investigate further. He called his most trusted private investigator and requested a comprehensive report on Evelyn Grace, her family, career, and every event in her life that had led her to this point. By afternoon, the investigator's report lay on Alexander's desk. He opened the thick file, each line drawing him deeper into a story he never imagined himself connected to. Evelyn Grace had once been a talented young painter. Her name appeared in prestigious art magazines, and her work was exhibited in renowned galleries. Her career had been soaring when a pivotal moment occurred. She signed an exclusive contract with Hanover Arts, a subsidiary of Fairmont Holdings. At first, everything seemed promising. Hanover Arts pledged to promote her work on a global scale. But within months, the situation changed drastically. The company began interfering with her art, forcing her to paint according to their demands. Evelyn refused, and the conflict quickly escalated. The company not only terminated her contract but also smeared her reputation in the art world, associating her name with damaging rumors. Evelyn lost all professional opportunities, was forced to sell her belongings to pay off debts, and ultimately ended up homeless. Alexander felt a weight settle over him as he read the final lines. Richard Hanover, the founder of Hanover Arts and Fairmont Holdings, was one of Alexander's former business partners. Years ago, Alexander had signed a significant financial agreement with Richard to expand Fairmont Holdings' influence. That very agreement had given Richard the power to commit the ruthless acts that had destroyed Evelyn's life. Alexander set the file down on his desk and sat motionless. The room was so silent that he could hear the ticking of the clock. A wave of guilt surged within him. At the time, he had no knowledge of Richard's actions. To him, the deal was merely a part of his growth strategy, a figure on a piece of paper. But now he realized that his lack of vigilance and blind ambition had indirectly caused Evelyn's suffering. Alexander stood and walked to the window, his eyes gazing at the vast garden outside, but seeing nothing except the emptiness within his soul. Evelyn's image replayed vividly in his mind, her fragile figure in the rain that night, her trembling voice as she recounted her losses, and her eyes that belonged to someone who had lost everything yet clung to a shred of dignity. Suddenly, a tightness rose in his chest, and Alexander, a man who prided himself on emotional control, felt tears welling up. He could not hold them back. He cried not only for Evelyn, but also for himself. He realized that in his relentless pursuit of building his empire, he had left behind the fundamental values of humanity. Unknowingly, he had enabled injustices, harming people like Evelyn, people who deserved to be protected, not cast aside. This revelation marked a turning point for Alexander. It was no longer just about helping Evelyn. It was about rectifying his past mistakes and rediscovering the person he thought he had lost long ago. Chapter 6: Transformation. The art exhibition titled Evelyn Grace had concluded, but its echoes lingered long after. Media outlets buzzed with coverage, calling it the triumphant return of a forgotten artist. Art critics showered praise on Evelyn's work, admiring her use of color and the emotional depth in every piece. Evelyn, once a homeless woman living on the streets, had now become a sought-after name among galleries and art organizations. Invitations to collaborate with major exhibition organizers poured in, and prominent collectors expressed their desire to acquire her paintings. Although she was taken aback by the overwhelming reception, Evelyn didn't allow herself to be swept away by the newfound fame. She remained grounded and focused on creating. Her passion for art had truly been reignited. Every day she worked in the studio Alexander had prepared for her, producing new pieces with the confidence she had long thought lost. Evelyn not only rediscovered her confidence, but also regained her faith in humanity. She no longer feared the wounds of her past. Instead, she learned to cherish what she now had. She understood that overcoming adversity wasn't about waiting for a miracle, but about daring to seize the opportunities that presented themselves. Throughout his journey of helping Evelyn, Alexander Hayes underwent a profound transformation as well. Once known for his cold demeanor, detachment, and single-minded focus on work, he had now become warmer and more emotionally open. The exhibition was not just Evelyn's success, but also a turning point in Alexander's life. Watching others admire Evelyn's work, he realized that life wasn't solely about money or power. True value lay in helping others and creating something meaningful. Alexander began seeing the world differently. He spent more time connecting with the people he had previously distanced himself from. He participated in philanthropic activities, particularly supporting young artists from underprivileged backgrounds. One day during a conversation with Evelyn, he admitted, "You've helped me see that life isn't just about numbers or contracts. I've lived too long in a world of isolation, and because of you, I've learned to open my heart." Evelyn, too, noticed the change in Alexander. She saw in him not just a powerful man, but a genuine human being with true emotions and compassion. "You've changed so much," she remarked one day as they sat by the fireplace in the mansion. "I never thought you'd do things like this for a stranger." Alexander smiled gently, his eyes softer than ever. "You're no longer a stranger. You've become a part of my life." His words made Evelyn blush slightly, but an indescribable warmth filled her heart. The two began to support one another on their new paths. Evelyn continued creating art, producing works that were increasingly celebrated and beloved. Alexander, once a man who confined himself to a cold, isolated world, learned to find joy in building meaningful connections. Evelyn and Alexander, though each on their own journey, became deeply intertwined. They found not only understanding in each other, but also a source of motivation to become the best versions of themselves. For Evelyn, success wasn't just about recognition. It was about overcoming the scars of her past and learning to live fully. For Alexander, change wasn't merely about helping Evelyn, but about rediscovering the true meaning of life. Together, they proved that even in the darkest moments, light can break through, and people can change for the better. Are you still following the story? If yes, comment Coca-Cola. Chapter 7: Transformation. The art exhibition titled Evelyn Grace had concluded, but its impact lingered. Media outlets buzzed with headlines, calling it the triumphant return of a forgotten artist. Art critics heaped praise on Evelyn's work, admiring her use of color and the emotional depth that each painting conveyed. From a homeless woman on the streets, Evelyn had now become a sought-after name among galleries and art organizations. Invitations to collaborate with major exhibitions poured in, and renowned collectors expressed their desire to own her pieces. Although surprised by the overwhelming reception, Evelyn remained grounded. She stayed true to her authentic self and focused on her art. Deep within her, the passion for creativity had been reignited. Every day she worked in the studio Alexander had set up for her, producing new works with a confidence she had long thought lost. Evelyn not only rediscovered her confidence but also regained her faith in people. No longer paralyzed by past wounds, she learned to appreciate what she had. She understood that overcoming adversity wasn't about waiting for a miracle, but about having the courage to seize opportunities when they came. Throughout his journey of helping Evelyn, Alexander Hayes experienced a profound transformation. The man once known for his cold demeanor, aloofness, and singular focus on work had become warmer, more emotionally attuned. The exhibition wasn't just a success for Evelyn, it marked a turning point in Alexander's life. Watching people admire Evelyn's art, he realized that life wasn't just about money or power. True fulfillment came from helping others and creating meaningful connections. Alexander began to see the world differently. He spent more time reconnecting with those he had distanced himself from. He became involved in charitable activities, particularly supporting young artists from disadvantaged backgrounds. One day, during a quiet conversation with Evelyn, he admitted, "You've helped me realize that life isn't just about numbers and contracts. I've spent too long in a world of isolation, and because of you, I've learned to open my heart." Evelyn, too, noticed the change in Alexander. To her, he was no longer just a powerful businessman, but a genuine, compassionate person with real emotions. "You've changed so much," she said one evening, as they sat by the fireplace in his mansion. "I never thought you'd do something like this for a stranger." Alexander smiled softly, his eyes kinder than ever before. "You're no longer a stranger. You've become a part of my life." His words made Evelyn blush slightly, but a warm feeling rose in her heart. The two began to support each other on their respective journeys. Evelyn continued creating, her work becoming increasingly admired. Alexander, once trapped in the cold solitude of his world, found joy in building meaningful connections and making a difference. Evelyn and Alexander, though traveling their own individual paths, became deeply intertwined. They found in each other not only understanding, but also a source of strength to become the best versions of themselves. For Evelyn, success was no longer just about recognition, but about healing old wounds and learning to live fully. For Alexander, transformation wasn't just about helping Evelyn. It was a journey to rediscover the true essence of life. Together, they proved that even in the darkest moments, light can shine through, and that people have the capacity to change for the better. Chapter 8. Climax and Resolution. Alexander couldn't let Evelyn's past haunt her forever. After learning more about what Richard Hanover, his former business partner, had done to her, Alexander resolved to confront the man directly. One afternoon in the opulent office of Fairmont Holdings, Alexander stepped in to face Richard. The man greeted Alexander with a confident smile, as if welcoming an old friend, completely unaware of the confrontation awaiting him. "Richard," Alexander said, his voice low but commanding, "I know what you did to Evelyn Grace." Richard hesitated briefly, but quickly regained his composure. "I don't know what you're talking about," he replied with feigned ignorance. Alexander placed a thick folder on the desk, filled with evidence of Richard's wrongdoings, from manipulating artists, destroying their reputations, to exploiting their vulnerabilities through unfair agreements. "This is enough to ruin your career," Alexander said, his eyes piercingly cold. "I won't let you harm anyone else." Richard attempted to defend himself, but Alexander didn't allow him to escape the truth. Using his influence, Alexander made the evidence public, ensuring Richard lost his position and faced legal consequences for his actions. With the truth exposed, Evelyn's reputation was fully restored. No longer was she shadowed by false rumors or malicious slander. Her name once again stood as a symbol of talent and integrity in the art world. Evelyn knew this vindication wouldn't have been possible without Alexander. She felt the sincerity and determination in everything he had done for her, actions that inspired not only gratitude, but also a growing affection for him. Alexander's unwavering support had not only freed her from the burdens of her past, but also given her a chance to embrace the future with newfound confidence and hope. Chapter 9. A New Beginning. When all the hardships had passed, Evelyn and Alexander realized their bond was more than just two people surviving adversity together. The companionship and shared experiences over time had grown into a deep love, though both were hesitant to voice it. One evening after the exhibition, Alexander invited Evelyn to his mansion. In the warm glow of soft yellow lights, he had prepared a small, intimate dinner for just the two of them. The table was elegantly set, and on the wall hung a special painting, Evelyn's very first work, which Alexander had secretly restored. Evelyn stood in awe, her gaze fixed on the painting. It was a piece she thought had been lost forever, a beautiful yet bittersweet fragment of her past. She turned to Alexander, her eyes filled with emotion. "You did this for me?" Alexander stepped closer, his gaze sincere in a way Evelyn had never seen before. Taking her hand in his, he spoke in a low, heartfelt voice. "Evelyn, you've changed my life in ways I never imagined. You didn't just help me rediscover my emotions. You taught me what it truly means to love. I want to be by your side, not just to protect you, but to build a new, meaningful life together. Will you marry me?" Evelyn was stunned, tears streaming down her face. She looked into Alexander's eyes and saw a love she thought she would never experience. After a moment of emotional silence, she nodded softly. "I once lost faith in love, but you've made me believe in it again. Yes, I'll marry you." After the proposal, Alexander decided to create a meaningful gesture to honor their love and give back to others. He established the Emily Hayes Art Foundation in memory of his sister, with the mission of supporting young artists facing hardships and helping them develop their talents. Evelyn, with her experience and empathy, became the foundation's first director. Evelyn understood that Alexander's gesture wasn't just for her, it was part of his journey to build something lasting and impactful. "You've done all of this not just for me," she said one day as they reviewed the foundation's plans together, "but for yourself and for Emily. I think she would be proud of you." 1 year later, Evelyn organized a new exhibition with the support of the Emily Hayes Art Foundation. The event not only showcased her works, but also introduced pieces from young artists nurtured by the foundation. In a space filled with light and celebration, Alexander and Evelyn stood side by side, basking in the admiration and blessings of those around them. Evelyn felt a profound peace in her heart, a feeling she hadn't experienced in many years. As the exhibition concluded, Alexander turned to her, holding her hand tightly. "This is just the beginning," he said. "There's so much more we'll accomplish together." Evelyn smiled, her eyes bright with hope. "And this time, I won't be afraid. I have you by my side." In the glow of the evening, the two walked hand in hand out of the gallery, stepping into a new chapter of their lives, a chapter filled with love, hope, and shared purpose. The story of Alexander and Evelyn highlights the values of empathy, forgiveness, and the strength to overcome adversity. It teaches us that everyone deserves a second chance to rebuild their lives, no matter how difficult their journey has been. Alexander shows that change and redemption are never too late, as long as we are willing to face our mistakes and act on what's right. Evelyn exemplifies how faith in oneself and support from others can reignite dreams once thought lost. Together, they prove that even in the darkest moments, light can shine through and people can grow into better versions of themselves. Thank you for following this story. Please rate it from 1 to 5 stars, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our Soul Stories channel. Your support is the motivation for us to continue bringing more great stories. The village of Montello, nestled amidst the lush green hills of Tuscany, Italy, is renowned for its vast vineyards and long-standing winemaking tradition. Here, Villa Rosa, an ancient winery, has stood as a symbol of the Martelli family's heritage for 3 generations. The old stone walls and deep underground cellars house hundreds of barrels of wine, each bottle embodying the essence of time, land, and dedication. But harsh realities weigh heavily on Villa Rosa. Changes in the market and competition from large corporations have plunged the winery into a financial crisis, facing the threat of being sold. Sofia Martelli, 27, is the family's only hope. She grew up among the vineyards, learning to understand every leaf and grape as if they were a part of her own being. With her soft brown hair and eyes radiating determination, Sophia is not just a winemaker, but the guardian of Villarosa's spirit. To her, wine is not merely a product to sell, but the soul of Montello, a connection between the past, present, and future. Yet the pressure from creditors and mounting buyout offers leave Sophia feeling increasingly helpless. The rain poured heavily. Icy drops fell relentlessly onto the rooftops and deserted streets of Montello. After a long day inspecting the wine cellar, Sophia drove home along the winding road. The car's headlights illuminated the rain-drenched trees, their reflections shimmering faintly in the thick downpour. Despite her exhaustion, Sophia remained vigilant, mindful of the narrow, slippery curves. Suddenly, a figure appeared on the roadside ahead. Startled, Sophia hit the brakes, and the car skidded slightly on the wet pavement. She peered through the windshield, trying to make out the blurry shape in the heavy rain. It was a man, lying motionless, his clothes soaked and covered in mud. Without hesitation, Sophia jumped out of the car, donned a thin raincoat, and ran to the man's side. He showed no sign of consciousness, his face pale from cold and exhaustion. She gently shook his shoulder, calling out loudly, "Hey, can you hear me?" There was no response. A wave of concern swept over her, and Sophia made a swift decision. She struggled to lift the man, dragging him toward her car. Braving the freezing rain pelting her face, she opened the car door and placed him on the back seat, covering him with her coat. The car sped along the winding road, heading toward the Martelli family home on the edge of the village. Sophia glanced repeatedly in the rearview mirror. The man remained unconscious, his breathing faint. She had no idea who he was, but all she could think about was helping him through the critical situation. When they arrived home, Sophia immediately brought the man inside. The cozy house, with its old stone walls and soft golden light from the ceiling lamps, exuded a sense of safety and comfort. She laid him on the bed in the guest room, replaced his soaked clothes with dry ones, and covered him with a thick blanket. His hands were ice cold, and Sophia hurriedly prepared a bowl of hot water, placing it on his forehead to keep him warm. In the dim light, she quietly observed the man sleeping soundly. Though his face appeared weary, his sharp features suggested he was not an ordinary person. Perhaps he's a traveler who lost his way, she thought to herself, then stepped out of the room to prepare a cup of hot ginger tea in case he woke up. That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. She sat by the bed, her eyes fixed on the man, filled with questions about his identity. Outside, the rain continued to fall steadily, and the wind whistled through the window panes. Yet within Sophia, a strange feeling crept in. Part worry, part curiosity. Welcome to Soul Stories. Today we bring you a heartwarming tale. Let us know which city you're tuning in from around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to catch more meaningful stories. The next morning, the gentle sunlight of Montello filtered through the old curtains, casting a soft golden hue over the cozy little room. Luca woke up, his head throbbing and his body aching. The room exuded a strange sense of familiarity with the scent of aged wood and a faint hint of lavender. It took him a moment to realize where he was, until the door creaked open and a young woman stepped in. "You're awake. How are you feeling?" Her voice was soft, laced with genuine concern. Luca lifted his head, his eyes meeting Sophia's. A stranger with natural beauty and bright, lively eyes. He was dazed for a moment before memories of the previous night returned. The rain, the accident, and the silhouette of a woman bending over him. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice hoarse, masking his unease. "You're at my house. I found you unconscious on the roadside last night and brought you here," Sophia explained, handing him a cup of hot tea and a warm towel. "Luckily, you weren't seriously injured, just exhausted." Luca nodded silently, refraining from revealing his true identity. He introduced himself as a businessman visiting Montello to explore the local culture. Sophia didn't press him further, simply smiling and assuring him he could stay and rest until he recovered. By afternoon, feeling slightly better, Luca accepted Sophia's invitation to visit Villarosa, the winery her family had operated for 3 generations. Together, they walked down cobblestone paths leading to the estate, flanked by lush green vineyards stretching under the sun. The ancient vines, weathered by countless harvests, seemed to whisper tales of resilience and time. Villa Rosa appeared before Luca like a living painting, its stone walls draped in moss and its terracotta roof a deep shade of red. Sophia guided him into the cellar, a sanctuary for the colossal oak barrels that had aged for decades. "This is the heart of Villa Rosa," Sophia said, her voice brimming with passion as she rested her hand on an aged barrel. "My family has been making wine here since my grandfather's time. Every barrel holds a piece of our story." Luca stood silently, moved by the sincerity and pride in her words. As a millionaire accustomed to high-stakes investments, he had come to Montello with a clear purpose: to purchase Villa Rosa and the surrounding vineyards for a luxury resort project. But now, standing amidst the winery's timeless beauty and hearing Sophia's tales of tradition, an unfamiliar feeling stirred within him. In the days that followed, Luca spent more time at Villa Rosa, not just observing, but also helping Sophia and her team with small tasks. Though he kept his true intentions hidden, he grew to understand the deep connections Sophia and her family had with the place. Villa Rosa was not merely a winery, it was a symbol of perseverance and faith. One afternoon, as they stood atop a hill overlooking the sprawling vineyards, Luca asked, "Sophia, what keeps you going, even when everything seems to be against you?" Sophia paused for a moment, her gaze fixed on the vines. "Because this isn't just a job. It's my life, my family's life, and the life of this entire village. Villa Rosa doesn't just produce wine, it creates a bond between the people in this land. I can't let it disappear." Luca listened, his heart stirred by her determination and passion. As a young entrepreneur who had built a global chain of luxury resorts, Luca had always prioritized economic value. He had arrived in Montello with a clear agenda: acquire Villa Rosa, transform it completely, and turn it into an upscale resort catering to wealthy clientele. But over the past few days, he began to see that some values couldn't be measured by monetary worth. Sophia had no idea that the man standing beside her held the power to decide Villa Rosa's fate. For Luca, however, his time in Montello had already begun to change him. He no longer saw Villa Rosa as just another business deal, but as a place brimming with stories and values he had never considered before. Amid the silence of the verdant hills, Luca realized he wasn't just captivated by Villa Rosa, but by the woman standing before him. As time went by, Luca's presence at Villa Rosa seemed to become a natural part of Sophia's daily life. He joined her in every task, from inspecting the vineyards early in the morning to tending to the barrels in the cool cellar late in the afternoon. Their initial conversations, focused solely on work, gradually became more personal. Luca was captivated by the way Sophia viewed the world through a lens of love and reverence for traditional winemaking. Every time she spoke about childhood memories with her grandfather, who taught her to distinguish between grape varieties, her eyes lit up like the sunlight dancing on the lush green vines. One afternoon, while Sophia was pruning the old vines, Luca quietly observed her from a distance. Her hair was neatly tied back, though a few strands fell against her sun-kissed face. He felt an unfamiliar sense of calm, a feeling he had never experienced in his cutthroat and calculated world. "You don't have to help. This requires a delicate touch," Sophia said when she noticed him approaching with a pair of shears in hand. Luca smiled, his eyes warm. "If I mess up, you can fix it. I just want to understand what makes you love this place so much." Sophia laughed, but she couldn't deny that his presence made her feel lighter. Though he didn't share much about himself, Sophia saw patience and sincerity in the way he listened and supported her. Day by day, they grew closer, and an unspoken bond began to blossom. However, not everything was so serene. In the quiet moments alone, Luca couldn't stop thinking about the original purpose of his visit to Montello. As a businessman, he was accustomed to making bold, emotionless decisions. He had come here with a clear objective: to buy Villa Rosa, tear down the winery, and transform the entire estate into a luxury resort catering to the elite. It was a flawless plan, one he knew would yield massive profits. But now things were no longer so straightforward. Luca could see the profound love Sophia had for Villa Rosa, not just as a job, but as a piece of her very soul. He felt torn between his responsibility to himself and his company and the guilt of potentially destroying everything Sophia had fought so hard to protect. One night, as he sat on the small balcony of his guest house, Luca gazed silently at the vineyards bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. Sophia's words echoed in his mind. Villa Rosa isn't just a place where we make wine. It's a home, a memory for an entire family, an entire village. He sighed deeply. Had his relentless pursuit of profit turned him into someone heartless, willing to trample on the dreams of others? The next morning, while Luca was working in the wine cellar, Sophia happened to spot a folder peeking out of the jacket he had left on a chair. Initially, she had no intention of looking through it, but a paper slid out, and her eyes caught a line of text. Villa Rosa Redevelopment Plan, Luxury Resort. Her heart sank. She skimmed through the contents, each line feeling like a dagger cutting into the trust she had placed in Luca. His detailed and carefully thought-out plan outlined not only the acquisition of Villa Rosa, but also the complete demolition of the winery and vineyards, to replace them with luxurious villas. Sophia's body trembled with anger and disappointment. She immediately grabbed the folder and marched straight to Luca, who was focused on inspecting a wine barrel. "Can you explain this?" she demanded, her voice steady but betraying a faint tremor. Luca turned around, his face darkening when he saw the folder in her hands. "Sophia, let me explain," he began, but she cut him off. "Don't say my name like that. Is this your true intention? You didn't come here to learn about the culture. You came to destroy everything I've worked so hard to preserve." Luca was silent for a few moments, his eyes filled with guilt. Finally, he sighed and admitted, "Yes. Initially, that was my plan. But Sophia, everything has changed. I'm no longer sure of my plans." "You think saying that will make me believe you?" Sophia cried, tears streaming down her face as the weight of betrayal crushed her. Luca tried to step closer, but Sophia backed away, her expression filled with pain. "I trusted you. I thought you were different. But in the end, you're just another man who only cares about money." Luca didn't respond. He knew that no explanation would suffice in this moment. He stood there silently watching as Sophia walked away, her heart shattered, leaving him with an emptiness he had never felt before. Sophia stood in the courtyard of Villa Rosa, her eyes red and filled with rage. The sting of betrayal surged through her like waves she couldn't control. Luca's words from the previous night echoed in her mind. "Initially, that was my plan." "You've gotten what you wanted, haven't you? A clear picture of Villa Rosa's worth so you can easily convince someone to buy it and tear it all down," she spat, her voice cold and her eyes burning with resentment. Luca tried to explain, but every word seemed to make things worse. "Sophia, I never meant to deceive you. I truly don't have that intention anymore. Everything changed when I realized what this place means to you and your family," he said, his tone pleading, but it did nothing to soothe her fury. "You think your apology can change anything?" Sophia interrupted, her voice sharp. "Villa Rosa is all I have. And what did you do? You exploited my trust to serve your own selfish goals." Not wanting to hear another word, Sophia made her decision. "Leave. I don't ever want to see you again." Luca had no choice but to respect her demand. He left quietly, but deep inside, pain and regret began to take root. He realized that losing Sophia and Villa Rosa was something he could not bear. Back in the city, Luca felt empty. The glamorous world of contracts, luxury resorts, and extravagant parties no longer held any appeal for him. His thoughts kept drifting back to Villa Rosa, the sound of Sophia's laughter as she reminisced about her grandfather, the serene beauty of the vineyards under the sunset, and the distinct aroma of oak barrels in the cellar. Sitting in his upscale apartment, Luca stared out at the bustling cityscape. In his hands was the folder containing the Villa Rosa redevelopment plan. The plan he had once thought was perfect. Now, every word on those pages filled him with guilt. He recalled Sophia's heartfelt words. "Villa Rosa isn't just a place where we make wine. It's a part of the village's soul, of my family's soul. Losing it would mean losing everything." Those words struck him like a wake-up call. Luca realized Villa Rosa was more than just an investment opportunity. It was a cultural symbol, a legacy that deserved to be preserved. He resolved not to let his mistakes destroy it. Luca began devising a new plan of action. Using his connections in the finance and real estate industries, he sought out the right investors, not to demolish Villa Rosa, but to protect and enhance it. His vision was to transform Villa Rosa into a place that not only produced exceptional wine, but also served as a cultural hub where visitors could immerse themselves in the traditions of Italian winemaking. He reached out to leading experts in the wine industry, asking for modern solutions that would preserve Villa Rosa's heritage. He studied successful models of wine tourism in regions like Bordeaux and Napa Valley, adapting those ideas to suit Villa Rosa's unique character. After weeks of relentless work, Luca completed his new plan. He titled it Villa Rosa, Legacy and Future. The proposal focused on preserving traditional winemaking techniques while introducing immersive experiences such as wine tastings, cellar tours, and cultural events. But Luca knew this plan would mean nothing without Sofia's approval. One crisp autumn morning, Luca returned to the village of Montello. He stood at the gates of Villa Rosa, not as an investor this time, but as a man carrying the weight of his mistakes and a determination to make things right. Sofia saw him from afar, and anger mixed with disappointment welled up within her. But before she could say anything, Luca spoke first. "I'm not here to justify myself, Sofia. I'm here to make amends." Sofia remained silent, her eyes filled with doubt. Luca handed her a new folder. Unlike before, this one did not contain plans for destruction, but a vision for Villa Rosa's future, a future her family could take pride in. "I know I hurt you and betrayed your trust," Luca said, his voice sincere. "But I've realized that Villa Rosa doesn't need to become something else. It just needs to be elevated so the world can see its true value." Sofia read through the plan, sensing the difference in every word. Luca had outlined solutions to pull Villa Rosa out of its financial crisis while ensuring it remained a proud symbol of the Martelli family's legacy. "Why would you do all this?" Sofia asked, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and suspicion. Luca answered without hesitation, "Because I don't just want to save Villa Rosa. I want to earn back the trust you once had in me. And because I've fallen in love with Villa Rosa. And with you." Sofia stayed silent, the anger in her heart gradually subsiding. She knew Luca couldn't undo all the harm he had caused in a single moment, but his actions spoke volumes about his sincerity. Even though Luca returned with a detailed plan and a promising vision for Villa Rosa, Sofia remained distant. The wounds from his previous betrayal made it hard for her to believe that his intentions were genuine and free from ulterior motives. "I can't trust you right away," Sofia said, her eyes still wary. "Villa Rosa was on the brink of collapse because of your plan. Why should I believe you won't change your mind again?" Luca understood that words alone wouldn't be enough to regain Sofia's trust. He began to act. In the days that followed, he became a regular presence at Villa Rosa, working alongside Sofia's team. He met with the veteran winemakers, listened to their stories, and delved deeper into the traditional processes of winemaking. One day, Luca surprised Sofia with a set of blueprints for modernizing the winery's infrastructure. The designs, created by a renowned team of experts, were not only innovative, but also carefully preserved the original essence of Villa Rosa. "I want every change to respect the soul of this place," Luca explained. "Sofia, I'm not just doing this for Villa Rosa. I'm doing it for you. I want to make amends for my mistakes." Sofia studied the designs, sensing Luca's sincerity. Although doubts still lingered, his dedication began to soften her heart. "Are you still following the story? If yes, comment Coca-Cola." After days of contemplation, Sofia decided to give Luca a chance. The two of them embarked on the mission of reviving Villa Rosa, sharing responsibilities and a mutual determination to protect the Martelli family's legacy. The first step was to improve the winery's infrastructure. Luca brought a team of top designers to Montello. They not only repaired the deteriorating sections, but also added modern amenities, such as a professional wine tasting area, historical exhibition rooms, and an open terrace with a panoramic view of the vineyards. Sofia and Luca closely supervised every phase of the project. Sofia insisted on preserving traditional elements, like the classic oak barrels and Villa Rosa's distinctive architectural features. Luca fully supported her, even suggesting additional details to enhance the estate's appeal to visitors. "We're not just revitalizing Villa Rosa," Luca said. "We're telling its story in a way that the whole world can understand and appreciate." Part of the revival plan included developing an experiential tourism model. Sophia and Luca began hosting vineyard tours where visitors could participate in the harvest and learn about the art of winemaking. Sophia led the tours, sharing stories about the Martelli family and her deep passion for winemaking. Her smile and vibrant enthusiasm captivated the guests, who not only savored the wine, but also felt the profound love she had for Villarosa. Luca stood in the background, observing how effortlessly Sophia connected with people. His admiration and affection for her grew even stronger. One afternoon after a tour had ended, Luca said, "Sophia, you're not just the heart of Villarosa, you're the reason people feel its value. I'm so proud to be working alongside you." Leveraging his industry connections, Luca helped Sophia secure partnerships with major distributors in Europe and North America. He organized product launches, inviting experts to sample Villarosa's wines. At an event in Florence, Luca stood beside Sophia as she presented Villarosa's new wine line. Her confident voice and deep knowledge commanded attention. After the presentation, a prominent distributor decided to sign a deal to introduce Villarosa wines to the U.S. market. "I couldn't have done this without you," Sophia admitted, a soft smile crossing her lips. "You've always had this ability," Luca replied sincerely. "I just helped the world see it." As time passed, Villarosa gradually became a new symbol of the harmony between tradition and modernity. The lush vineyards, ancient oak barrels, and stories of the Martelli family were now preserved and celebrated in a vibrant way. Sophia and Luca organized wine festivals together, attracting visitors from all over the world. In the evenings, they would sit by the wine cellar, savoring glasses of red wine and discussing plans for the future. Their relationship grew closer over time. Amid challenges and pressures, they found solace and trust in each other. One night, as the moonlight bathed the vineyards, Luca said, "I came here intending to change Villarosa, but it's you and this place that have changed me." Sophia looked at him, her heart filled with emotion. She realized that between them lay not just a partnership, but a sincere love that was quietly blossoming. Villarosa was not only revived but flourished like never before. Sophia and Luca had proven that blending tradition with modernity wasn't just a concept, but a path full of potential. Amidst the vineyards and wine cellars, they discovered not only the value of heritage, but also the true meaning of connection, love, and belief in the future. One quiet evening, the moonlight streamed through the small windows of Villarosa's oldest wine cellar, where ancient barrels lay silently, telling stories of time. Sophia and Luca stood there, surrounded by the aroma of oak wood and the subtle scent of aged wine. Dressed in a simple suit, Luca held a small, intricately crafted box made from the wood of an old wine barrel. Turning to Sophia, his eyes shone with sincerity. "Sophia, from the moment I met you, you've taught me the value of cherishing the past and preserving what truly matters. You didn't just save Villarosa. You saved me from the misguided values I once pursued. I've found love not only for this place, but also for you." Sophia's eyes glistened under the warm light of the antique lamps hanging from the ceiling. "I don't just want you as my partner in work. I want you as my partner in life. Sophia Martelli, will you marry me?" Luca opened the box, revealing a unique ring crafted from the wood of an old wine barrel, infused with the spirit and essence of Villarosa. Sophia felt her heart race. Joy, surprise, and love blended together, bringing a radiant smile to her face. "Luca, I can't imagine a life without you. Yes, I'll marry you." As Luca slipped the ring onto her finger, no further words were needed. Their kisses and glances said it all. The ancient wine cellar, a repository of the Martelli family's memories, now bore witness to the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Thanks to the collaboration between Luca and Sophia, Villarosa was not just preserved, but elevated, becoming a symbol of the fusion between tradition and modernity. The ancient wine barrels remain the heart of Villarosa, holding the spirit and legacy of the Martelli family. Alongside these timeless values were modern amenities, including wine tasting experiences, historical exhibitions, and cultural events hosted regularly. Visitors from around the world flocked to Montello to admire the beauty of Villarosa, savor its signature wines, and participate in immersive activities like grape harvesting, wine tasting, and hearing inspiring stories directly from Sophia. Luca, with his managerial expertise and strategic vision, expanded Villa Rosa's international market, introducing Italian wines rich in tradition to global connoisseurs. Not only were Sofia and Luca life partners, but they also became a dynamic duo in developing Villa Rosa. The combination of Sofia's passion and expertise with Luca's business acumen brought Villa Rosa to new heights. Sofia oversaw the production process, ensuring that every bottle of wine maintained its distinctive flavor and highest quality. Meanwhile, Luca continued crafting marketing strategies and expanding markets, while organizing major events at Villa Rosa to attract customers and media attention. Despite their busy schedules, they always made time for each other. After long days, they would sit together with glasses of red wine, reminiscing about their journey and dreaming of the future. Villa Rosa wasn't just a workplace, it was their home. The story of Sofia and Luca wasn't just about saving a winery, it was about rediscovering the value of tradition in a modern world. It demonstrated that love, sincerity, and determination could overcome any challenge. Not only saving a family's legacy, but also creating something meaningful for the community. Villa Rosa, once a winery on the brink of collapse, became a symbol of innovation and preservation. This story reminds us that, like aged wine, life becomes truly special when we cherish the values that shape us and embrace positive change with open hearts. Thank you for following this story. Please rate it from 1 to 5 stars, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our Soul Stories channel. Your support is the motivation for us to continue bringing more great stories.